Welcome to the podcast, Raising Unstoppable Teens. I'm Dr. Kimberly Shear, teen breakthrough expert, and I'm so proud to announce my book is finally here. It's an international bestseller, Unstoppable Teens, a parent and teen guide to teen empowerment, fulfillment, and achievement. And it's now available on Amazon. So super excited about that. And I am super excited to welcome our guest, Paula Orezi, to the show. Welcome, Paula.
Thank you for having me, Kim.
And I'm so excited that you're here. So I've got some juicy questions for you, which we will ask Paula in just a moment. First, I'd like to read her bio. So Paula Orezi is the author of a motivational poetry book titled From Me to You. She was born in Allentown, Pennsylvania, and was raised in South Florida. She earned a master's in business leadership from Huizenga School of Business at Nova Southeastern University and a bachelor's degree in organizational management from Palm Beach Atlantic University. She has a passion to speak and help the next generation get inspired to make a change that will create a positive and win-win outcome. Love that. Her years of experience includes mentoring others, primarily in the adolescent ages, and leadership development. She has been featured in podcasts that encourage others to live with purpose and dream big. The creation of Paula O Store was founded on the concept of Be You. Love that also. Paula's main mission is to empower the leaders of tomorrow to be themselves and find their life's calling in an adventurous way. Ooh, I like that. So again, let's welcome Paula Orezi to the show. Yay!
Thank you, Dr. Kimberly, for having me. Such an honor.
Wow, I'm so delighted you're here, and we'll just get started with some good questions over here. So let's begin with, what were your teen years like?
Wow, where do I begin? My teen years, I grew up in a very structured home where everything my parents said, it goes. And I already knew what my life was going to be like Monday through Sunday, Monday through Friday, going to school, going to youth group and church and chores on Saturday. So I grew up in a very cookie cutter life. Parts of me liked it and enjoyed it, but it was very annoying because I really was like, this is not me. And it felt very robotic. But I understood the nature of my parents really wanting the best for me and just kind of giving me that pathway to be in that setting of getting to my adulthood where, hey, you know what, we're going to give her everything she needs and she's off to the wilderness, or off to the wild ages, I should say. But as a teen, I grew up in a very bubbled, kind of like I was bubbled in with my own emotions and just kind of learn how to kind of keep things under the rug. So I journaled a lot in my teen years. So a lot of my juicy things and things that I've thought are all in my journals. And so I grew up in a very, just kind of bubbled in, with my emotions. So I had to deal with it. And I also had a very adventurous side of me as a teen. So I just wanted to always explore something. I had a curiosity part of me. So growing up was like, okay, I have this part of me that's curious, but then at the same time, I am in a structured environment. So.
Yeah, I like that. And that the question that came to my mind is I think that, my opinion is that the structure or having boundaries help, even when we don't want them, help us, I think, to feel safe. So my question to you is, do you feel like, even though you had those emotions kind of bottled up, and what a great outlet journaling is for sure, and there's health benefits to journaling, so I'm very much about that, but do you feel like that there's any connection between having the structure, having clear expectations, kind of, what do I want to say, gave you a foundation to then explore a little bit more of that adventurous wild side, or do you feel like whether or not you had structure, you would still be exploring it? Does that make sense? I mean,
Oh, yes, definitely. I would say the boundaries were for sure it helped me a lot to not get into trouble. A lot of the typical things that are drawing us as teenagers, that would get us in trouble with outside influences of the world, and just things that are just the pressures of the world. So it definitely provided a sense of boundaries. I appreciate the boundaries that my parents provided. But at the same time, it kind of felt where when I wanted to venture out, and venture out meaning in great and good things,
right.
I felt limited. I felt like my boundaries were just kind of like, hey, I have boundaries with rules. And that's one thing which I love and appreciate, because obviously it's helped me to look back at my teen years and say, oh, thank goodness I didn't get to that, or didn't experience with that. That would have, raveled a lot of bad things to me. But there was a sense of, it just felt like it was very robotic, and it felt like even if I wanted to venture out, like I said in the previous response, was just making sure that I could be myself and not feel limited to the rules and boundaries. But my parents understood me, but at the same time, it was like, no, we're going to keep you cocooned in. And I think a lot of it had to do with fear of just them thinking, oh, well, if we let her adventure out, she's going to go and lose herself in that adventure. But realistically, internally, I looked at it as, Mom, thanks for all the boundaries that you provided. I know better, but I'm going to adventure out with my mindset of, okay, I know the boundaries, I know the rules, I know the foundations that were set before me. So in other words, I know better, and obviously if you know better, you do better. So I just wish that there was more trust with that for me to be able to venture out with the trust of knowing that they did a great job with the boundaries that they put for me.
I love that, because I love what you brought up. There are like healthy, positive risk taking, if you will, and then there's the risk taking into some more darker things that can have, unfortunately, a damaging effect later on, right? Whether it's drug addiction or
Yeah.
Staying out late, and it's so many things, and just really not being safe. And it
Mhm.
sounds to me like, while it was a bit constricted to have all that structure,
Mhm.
it kind of did help you in a way, you know, kind of not go kind of in the darker side, but to take those risks more out of, a healthy, positive risks, and really explore and play around with that, as you say, venture out and kind of expand, if you will, beyond those limitations, but and overcome some of the fear maybe, but taking that healthy risk,
Mhm.
or positive risk where it's growth oriented, right? So
Right. I like what you said with the growth oriented, is
mhm.
knowing that, hey, mom and dad, that, I'm appreciative of those foundations. But I just wish they would have known, and I'm sure they do now, obviously, as an adult, that I thank you for those boundaries, because it allowed me to venture out without having to feel like I'm dragging along baggages of bad decisions. Not that we all don't make decisions, because, teenage years is like that exploratory curiosity and pushing the boundaries type of years.
Mhm.
And so I'm sure everybody's done that before. Obviously, I've done that in my teen years, but I'm happy to know that I can say, "Oh, I know better."
Yeah.
And my mom and my dad, they made sure that that foundation was there. But I just wish that, like, it wasn't like a limitation boundary where I'm not able to be Paula, or trying to get out of the cocoon, I should say, in those teen years, to say, "Hey, look at me! I'm trying to be something bigger here. I'm trying to adventure out in a good way. So trust me, I got the boundaries down packed, but just trust me." So I feel like that was my cry in my teenage years. And that was my cry through my writing and journaling, was like, just let me be me.
Mhm. That's beautiful. You were ready to just spread those wings, right? Just
Yes.
kind of
But I can always say too, I feel like I did kind of play my role of, I think I know what's better for me. I think I know what's best. When you're in a little naive state of mind, you're thinking, oh, it's going to be fine. But I'm glad I look back and I'm like, okay, I can see why this boundary was set here,
Mhm.
you know?
Wow. Cool. Okay. So let's see. Well, this leads into the next question then. How did you face the pressure to be something that your parents wanted you to be?
Oh, well, I would tell you now. I actually was screaming to the rooftop and I explained to my parents at a very young age, I'm like, I really want to be a doctor. I want to be a pediatrician. And I was really set on doing that. And then, of course, after going through schooling and so forth, I realized shortly that's not my gifts, that's not my talents, that's not what I want to do. Or maybe did I do this because my friends wanted to do it, or because that's just a natural progression of, hey, what's either lawyer, doctor, or something in the top 10 career path that you can have. So I explained it was very nerve wracking because I remember when I was going through that phase of like, hey, this is really what I want to be. I want to be a doctor. And I had shortly explained to my parents, I'm like, I don't want to be it. I don't want to do that anymore. And the pressure was on because for them, it was like, no, you're going to do it. And it wasn't like they were being mean spirited about it. It was just the pressure of, oh, I thought you were going to be a doctor. Why would you want to just do that? And that for me, when I say that, I mean like, hey, I really want to adventure out doing something that is more in alignment with my skills and my talents and my abilities. I was more of the extrovert, I should say, and now expert, but extrovert, and just kind of like the center stage attention. I was always finding myself giving some kind of like advice to my friends and kind of like that pump up advice. And I was just like, oh, maybe I should just play around with that. But it's hard because when you're thinking you're going to be a doctor and that's what your parents would be proud of, and they suddenly are not too thrilled about the other place that you want to go or explore, it's hard. So the pressure, the way that I dealt with it, of course, journaling for me was a big thing that's my outlet. And my parents I had to face the fact of knowing that this is not going to make them that happy, but I still went and adventure out to do what I wanted to do. And I think that them seeing how serious it was for me and how I made differences here and there, and they could actually see the fruits of it, that kind of weighed off the pressure, if I should say. So it helped, but I had to prove that this is part of who I am, what I was built to do on this planet, and how I'm contributing to the earth. And so for me, it wasn't about like pleasing people at the moment. And I think after a while they were seeing that by my way of not caving in and saying, okay, I'll just be a doctor. They did see actual steps and leaps of or faith I've taken to actually, contribute to my dreams. So they kind of backed off after a while.
I love
And
it.
I did it, of course, respectfully.
Yes. Well, I love it because really you didn't let the pressure stop you. You were in, basically an unstoppable pursuit of your dreams, of what your dream was. And I also love the fact because was it a master's in business leadership? So part of leadership is really being aware of your strengths, your skills, and your talents, and then also delegating some of that, leveraging some of that, or playing to your strengths. And it sounds to me like just early on, you naturally kind of figured that out a little bit, or at least enough to where you were passionate about it to pursue it,
Right. Yeah, it was hard because I remember when I had to change course and everyone kind of was just kind of giving me that look like, what are you doing? I thought you wanted to be a doctor. And it was just that feeling of I let everyone down because I naturally grew up as a people pleaser. And that included my parents and of course my friends and peers. And so for me, it was very hard to kind of say, hey, this is not really what I want to do. I really want to start venturing out in this path. And I think like I said, what made it more of a solid decision for me, and that, hey, you're going to have to jump on the ship and, support me, is that I actually made tangible steps to show them that this is why I want to do it. These are actual fruits of the labor of what I've already started to kind of plant the seed, so that they can see the fruits of it. And I think me having to prove myself over time, it was uncomfortable, but I think it served its purpose over the long haul.
Mm-hmm. And I, again, love what you said, because I think for a lot of teens, we don't want to disappoint our parents. Like that's one of the number one things. And yet, your whole kind of part of your philosophy or your expertise is in you being you, authentically, unapologetically you.
Mhm.
And that's what you did, and you pursued your passion. And I don't know, I think that's awesome, and that you had to prove that. But parents ended up supporting you because they probably saw that it's what made you happy, fulfilled you, and as you said, you were you were motivated, and you were taking clear action steps to pursue and make and create that as a reality for you. So
Yeah,
that's
and
very cool.
I had to really push back on allowing the, hey, why aren't you doing this? Why aren't you focused on that? You should be a doctor. And then I, of course, growing up in a big family where there's comparison happening too secretly, not knowing, unknown, not like they want to be comparing them,
Right.
but you could see some things are there. But for me, I had to really fight back a lot of my thought processes and just say, okay, we're not going to think this, and we're not going to make this, we're not going to allow their their words to plant in my heart where it's growing bad fruits, or negative traits in me. Because then if they're thinking, oh, Paula, we thought you wanted to be a doctor, but now you're going to do this, and oh, how, why can't you do this, why can't you be like this and this person. I had to fight those thoughts. And like I said, journaling was my outlet, but I also allowed myself to feel some of the pressures and process it the right way. And, when you're growing up, your hormones and your emotions are all over the place. And that is a balancing act on itself, in of itself. So for me, I had to really learn the maturity of, okay, this is what they think, and I am confident enough of who I am. And I think because of that confidence, and I think of me valuing myself, knowing that, hey, I'm Paula Orezi and I'm here for a purpose, and putting that confidence in display helped a lot with the pressure. And also with other people probably thinking, what is she doing? Why does she not want to be a doctor? Everything's laid out for her, And so I think it took a lot of battling of the mind or the thoughts that were going through my mind.
Mhm. But you persevered, and you had a lot of tenacity because you believed in yourself and you believed in your dream.
Mhm.
So that's cool. Um, we are really close to being out of time. So before we end the show, um, what are some tips that you could give parents for our next generation of leaders?
Yeah, so one thing I would say is to, I mean, you've had your child since birth. You've paid attention to every milestone age. You see what they're good at. You see the things that they're like, oh my gosh, she picked that up quick, or he picked that up quick. So I think as they're growing up, you can keep the support system by allowing them to play in the sandbox. And I say that because a lot of the parents, I know that they really want what's best for their child, and nothing's wrong with that. That's a great thing to have as a parent. But also know that your child has their own individual skills and talents and gifts and abilities that are going to contribute in a magnificent way in the world. And the way that one tip I would say is that, hey, support them, allow them to have that room to discover who they are, and support them in that. And they may want to change here, and then tomorrow they're going to change there, but support them because they're trying to figure it out. And it's so much fun when you have your parent rallying with you. And it's like that adventurous journey that you're going to be on with your teen, and they're in an adventurous journey as well. And so why not make it fun? Give them room to play in the sandbox. I would say, provide the sand and just let them build whatever they need to build in that sandbox.
I love that. I love that because really, like, it seems to me like that's just a piece of who you are. You entered this world adventurous, but
Mhm.
there's a lot of teens that may not have that sense of adventure. But I definitely think we're all born in this world curious. And so if you have even parental support to just allow the curiosity and the exploration to play in the sandbox and see, what we can create there,
Mhm.
just having that support, I think it allows for teens or children to be more adventurous than they might otherwise be without that support. So um and I like that. And really for parents too, it's more about guiding them. like,
Right.
asking them questions and
Mhm.
kind of letting them come to their own ideas and answers, and hopefully open a dialogue even about that. So you can take it a little deeper for them. But I love that analogy, put them in the sandbox, provide the sand, but let them create in it, right?
And I love what you said too, Dr. Kimberly, is the fact that it's like the parents' role is to be guiding, asking questions,
Mm-hmm.
and the asking questions, it's awesome because as a teenager, you're like, wow, my parent wants to get to know who I am,
Mm-hmm.
or get to know what my interests are. So it does open that dialogue very openly, and it provides that relationship of support, where, hey, I'm your parent, but I'm also going to be your supporter, and I'm also going to be there for you, no matter what. So when you provide that confidence to a teen, they're like, okay, I've got my backing set, so I'm ready to explore and ready to be all that I can be. So it's very, very important for parents to be able to play that role, especially in this world we live in.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So exciting. Okay. Well, please tell us how our listeners can learn more about you and your services and all the juicy stuff you provide.
Oh, of course. Yep. They can visit my website. It's paulaostore.com. And it's one word, paulaostore.com.
Awesome. And I will also have that link in the show notes as well. So again, I want to thank you, Paula, for your expertise and insight, and from your adventurous inner teen self, and I'm glad you didn't give up on that, right?
Thank
You
you.
never
Yeah.
gave up on you, and now you're contributing in big ways to our next generation and beyond. So valuable work, and thank you. I thank you for really honoring you, because
Mhm.
then all of us get that fruit.
Yes, and I thank you for that because, again, like I said, everything I do, it has to produce fruit. And just like a teenager, a typical person on this earth, you producing fruit, you're planting that seed, and it's going to affect everybody else around you. So why not plant the seeds that you're naturally able to do? Be yourself, So I appreciate, being on this show, and I've learned a lot about a lot of the things that we've talked about in past conversations, Dr. Kimberly, with you. And thank you for your book. It's very inspirational, very helpful, and I'm just looking forward to new things.
Awesome. Well, thank you. And we'll be on next week with a new expert or possibly a teen. I don't know yet, but make sure to tune into the podcast Raising Unstoppable Teens next week, to take a deeper dive in a different topic. Thank you.